Hello, everybody. It's Friday, unless you're listening to this on repeat, in which case it could be any day of the week. Who knows? But it is the source of the sauce. And today, our guest is Debbie Barber. Hello, and welcome to The Sauce.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Do you feel saucy today?
A little bit saucy. I'll be saucier tomorrow. It's Friday, long weekend.
That's the correct answer. It's always the correct answer. Yeah.
A long weekend, and there's lots of chocolate. And I've already started, actually.
Oh, my word.
I kind of eggs about 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
You must have won the lottery then if you're buying mini eggs.
Well, I did actually buy one of those kilo bags. That's bad, isn't it?
Really?
They were quite bad offer though, so.
You're justifying it now.
Kilo bag.
I'll tell you now because it's here. Huge job.
Wow.
They put a competition on, and I jokingly said, they said how many were in there, and I said £1,000. Like, I'm joking. It was a big jar.
It is. It's quite a huge.
But the Cadbury's. The Cadbury's?
They are Cadbury's, yeah. As I said, they
Other ones aren't the same.
They were on offer. So I had
Other ones aren't the same. They don't taste the
same. They were on offer. Buy a shed load at this price, or pay an extortionate amount per packet. Yeah. It'll cost you less, but you'll put on some pounds. Yeah.
But there is that. Yeah, I'm glad the camera's just waist high.
I never know whether I look forward to chocolate anymore. It's just, no, listen, this is just a thing, right? I just feel like now our diary throughout the year seems to center upon one food after another food after another food. And it just feels like I've just eaten a kilo load of chocolate for this event. And now you're presenting me with another kilo load about to come up. And where am I meant to diet in between? Where's the period of time?
The 6 week, what is it, just before your holiday? It's like, now you can try and repair all the damage.
But then it's barbecue weather.
Exactly.
It's wine weather.
Just no hope, really, is there?
That period at the beginning of the year, after Christmas, that January period where it used to seem like weeks it went on where they sold rice cakes and thin air in bags to help you lose weight. That seems to only last about a week now, and then they're like chocolate again.
Yeah. 3 days of swim fast, then Easter. Yeah.
Exactly. I just don't know. Where are we meant to get time to diet these days? Oh, we're going to get inundated with coaches now telling us that we should be doing this and that.
Oh, coaches and coaches.
Absolutely. Debbie, thanks for coming on today. Do tell us a little bit about you.
Wow. Okay. So my role is essentially quality assurance in education and training in a very niche sector. So I've been in the private security industry for almost 30 years. I did the maths actually yesterday, and I used to say nearly 30 years, and it wasn't that far away. It's actually only 1 year off 30 years now, so that's quite scary. Throughout that time, I started off as a door supervisor before the age of 18, which is naughty, but with the council badges then, and it's all fine. And just kind of progressed really to having my own security companies, doing events and all that sort of thing. And kind of 30 years on, I went into the education side of things. I've been doing that now for, I reckon about 17, 18 years. And then finally quality assurance. So I'm really kind of niche in where my job looks after essentially training centres that provide security training in accordance with the awarding body standards, and then obviously the Security Industry Authority, Home Office standards and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I get to spend my days looking at training providers, training what essentially the old school bouncers and bodyguards, which is not the worst job in the world. If I'm honest.
Not at all.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's an essential part of that training to get the voice right as well. Is it you got to talk like that, innit? Got to talk a bit like that on the door. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? got to lower your voice by at least an octave in order to
tell some invisible lap syndrome, so you've got to stand a bit like that.
Stand a bit like that, talk a bit like that. Do you know what I mean? Look down.
That used to be it. That's why all the standards are brought in, because that was a
because that's what used to be the standard, and now
It doesn't go on at all, though. Still, does it?
no, absolutely not. No, yes, it does. Of course, it does.
Right.
Not as much as it did, but
I heard of Debbie and contacted her because I felt like our education backgrounds got those same thoughts, and we've had a long conversation and sort of ranted about stuff and discussed stuff. And I think where, I know you've got to change. What sort of change? Like you said, you've been niched, which you can talk about in a minute. For me, it's a funny one because I'm doing more work in the security sector. There's sort of certain sectors I've seen, so construction as well, and care, where there's some great individuals there, but sometimes the training side of it is lacking.
Yeah.
And I think, I've had various discussions with people that do work in the sector or certain other sectors. And I met with differing levels of approval from what would you know through to actually, I know that you know a lot about what you know about, and actually bring what you know.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this, Graham and I, yesterday when we were talking about to somebody about collaborating, that when things are done the way they've always been done, that was fine when it, like you said, back in the day when you were working under 18, it is what it is. I worked in the care sector and various things happened how they did. And the fact that they shouldn't happen like that, it had to have had all of that to be where we're at now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And trying to explain to people that you have standards for a reason.
Definitely. I think when the regulation first came in, so there was always some sort of regulation in the industry to an extent. So I'm not sure how familiar you kind of are with it, but 2003, 2004, depending on where England or Wales, it all kind of got brought in over a few stages. So the security industry used to be regulated essentially by a local authority, which was your council. So you'd get what we call a council badge, and you do a little bit of training. Sometimes it would be 2 days, sometimes it was 1 day, sometimes it was no training at all, depending on what council you were essentially registered under. I come from West Wales and Pembrokeshire, so I was registered under Pembrokeshire County Council. What that then meant is that I couldn't work in another county unless I went off and registered there, and then I couldn't work in a different county unless I went off and registered. So it's all a little bit of carnage across all the counties, across the whole of the country. Those different levels of training meant that some people had first aid training, fire training, whatever. Some had absolutely none at all. And we had essentially an industry that was quite often run by not very nice people. There were a lot of gangs, a lot of criminality. And so regulation was brought in it's Private Security and Strategy 2001 that came in sort of 2003, 2004, where a standard course was created that everybody across the country had to do. So it didn't matter whether you worked a door in Pembrokeshire or whether you did it in London, you were trained to the same standard. Criminal record checks were brought in, which meant that any criminals that were on the door could no longer get a badge and therefore couldn't work because you'd have to have a license to work. And that the idea of that regulation was to essentially get rid of all the criminality on the Of course, that was 22 years ago now, give or take. She's changed a lot. So arguably for the better, some will argue for the worse, depends on kind of what side of the coin you're on, and all points are valid, if I'm absolutely honest, they really are. So yeah, the standards have been improved in some respect over the years. We're just now left with a bit of a different problem in that they've actually gone too far the other way, in my humble opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion across the industry. They've gone too far the other way. And so there's been a few sort of updates to the qualifications over the years, which is aimed to balance out those differences in what's kind of gone wrong, I suppose, if you like. But it's quite a learning curve, and as you say, there will be differences of opinions and differences of standards across the industry, depending on where you go to, depending on where people are trained, depending on who their employers are. And that shouldn't be the case, really, because, as you say, the whole idea is supposed to be a standard. It should not matter Whether you're trained by Dave in Pembrokeshire, whether you're trained by Steve in London, it shouldn't matter. You should be the same standard. That is absolutely not the case, and it really does need a complete reform. Is that kind of your experience when you've been chatting to people across the industry, Marianne?
Yeah, I mean, my experience has been you've got the people that are doing it right and the people that are doing it less right. I'm going to word it like that.
That's right.
Very politically correct. Yes.
Love that.
People that are doing it less right, that, as you say, I'm sure they've got their reasons, but what I see is the people that are doing it right. Now, I've got my own centre. I offer qualifications, and yes, it's a pain in the backside to a certain degree. You know, I've had something happen to me. I've got to go and sort of deal with stuff later on with the awarding body, just to do with all the stuff that goes on that people don't realise, which is the stuff that actually people want. You know, if you're offering a qualification, what you're saying is, so if you're going to do that qualification, essentially what you're doing is you're choosing to do something that isn't just so and so that's written a course on the back of a cigarette packet, that, you know, you've got the CPD bit and then you've got the qualification. So as I say to people, really, as you said, what should happen is, so I offer the AT, the 4, the 5 carb or whatever it is, and it should be that whether someone does it with me or whether they do it with you, that there will be those aims, those objectives, and they will be taught what they need to be, and they will get that at the end. Yes, there's you know, different styles and that kind of thing, and that's, you know, how it is. But essentially, that's what should be happening, and that's what we want. You want it so that you know. And as I said to someone earlier on, when you do a qualification, the reason why they have that is it's gone through loads of checks to make sure that that qualification does what it needs to for people to do X, Y, and Z job. You know, I think changes need to be made to the AT. Absolutely, I think they do. But then that's not for me to, you know, I add stuff in. But so my experience is that you've got the people that are wanting to do it right, the people that are totally invested in looking after the excuse me, security staff. Yeah. You know, anybody working in that sector, and then wanting to do it right. And then there's other people, unfortunately, I see it in the construction sector, that have got money to start up a business and they see it as pound signs. So I've not many people that are going to be SIA trainers. My fear that's happening now, and it's what I'm putting out there, I've seen lots of videos of when the qualification's been delivered, let's just say, where things aren't being done as they should be.
Yes.
And this is where the problem comes when people say, and I ended up getting into a bit of a conversation with somebody that said, with all due respect, and that never ends well if you're going to say that to somebody.
No, I say this with love, but that usually means I'm going to ruin you.
Yeah. So basically, because I haven't been. Yeah. I'm not SIA trained, of which I'm quite happy to do.
Yeah.
So what they'll say is, yeah, but there's rogue awarding bodies and there's people that are rogue. And I go, yeah, okay, there's always going to be rogue people out there. But if you have nothing, that's not an alternative as well. It's to do with doing it right, like, you know, you're doing. So my experience of it is that you've got the people that are wanting to do it really well, that aren't charging pennies, because actually they're charging their worth. And then unfortunately there's other people that are doing it where they're letting people on the courses that don't speak English, they're faking the results, all this kind of thing. And whilst people go, I go, right, stop there. Manchester Arena. Okay, just take that for example. So we, you know, my son's been going to events on his own recently, and I think, gosh, when he goes to those, he's buying a ticket to go to something with the assumption that he's going to be looked after by the security staff.
No, absolutely.
So but every single time somebody doesn't do that thing that qualification said they could do, that's the potential for somebody in that whole cog in that wheel not doing their bit right. So whether it is at a football stadium, whether it is at a concert, or wherever it is, if somebody can't do their bit, potentially actually it's massive. I know that sounds dramatic, but
it's not dramatic. It's not dramatic. And I think for those of us that are a bit old school and have done it a long time, and you'll see these comments on LinkedIn, which is where I know we spend a lot of our time. It's a matter of time before the next attack is actually an internal one, because it is so easy to get your qualification and to get it fraudulently. We know that there's centres out there that are just bringing people in. They're not even turning up to the class. Sometimes they're just signing a bit of paper and off they go. There's incidents of people sharing badges because companies aren't doing their due diligence, and that's been going on since time began. That happened to me 20 odd years ago, when the SIA licenses first came out, actually, and I only knew it happened because I was contacted by the police because there'd been an incident, and that was back in the day where you signed a doorman's book and that was it, and somebody had signed the doorman's book as me, and I got the call to say what's happened, we need a witness statement, and I'm going, I was in Cardiff at the time, I wasn't even there. So the sharing of information and badge details has been going on for a very, very long time. It's now on quite a scale, but that is also up to the companies who employ these people to do their due diligence and the solutions are easy if you want to make them easy.
If you want to, that's exactly it, isn't it? If you want to.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of events, for example, where you need hundreds of staff on, and I get that. You sign them in early, get them to produce their license, get them to produce 2 forms of ID alongside their license. You know that person's got that license, jobs are good, and they do not do it. One of my hats is not just quality assurance and education. I'm also still operational. I've got an SIA license myself. I go off and I quite often do quality assurance on events. So I'm checking the security companies are doing what they're supposed to do, right the way from when they check the staff in, all the way through managing the crowd safety until egress at the end, and then end of the night, thank you and good night, at which point I'm tired and I need to drive 3 hours home with lots of monsters. So I see the whole process, and the amount of times I have seen people just walk in, put a signature on. Some of these people, and I'm not going to mention names of companies, it's very much for me a learning curve for people. You see people come in, they're supposed to have vetted and screened them prior to them coming onto site, and a bus will rock up and it won't be the people that have been vetted and screened, it'll be somebody's mate and they've just built up numbers, and that's been going on for a long time too. And we get that, there's what should be done on paper and there's the operational reality, and I'm fortunate I've done both of these things. But there are ways of, if people do rock up on your site and they've not been vetted, it's not great. The book says you should be sending them home. We know operationally that's not always possible. So get them to produce their license, get them to produce their ID, make sure they are who they say they are. It's the very basics of diligence on that respect. And then the training side of it, as I said, you've got so much dodginess going on, and just to go back to your point about there are people that are doing it properly and people that are not. There's actually a third category in my experience is of people that are not doing it properly but have no idea that that's the case.
That's the thing. There are those people, but the number of times that I just this morning have had a conversation with someone and the other day and explained what the difference between a qualification is, what the difference between CPD is. Yes. And the upshot of each one of them is, and then the penny kind of drops with people, and you think, I've been saying about this for ages, but because people sort of don't know what they don't know, and then it's really hard to try and educate people about something that they don't know that they need to know about.
Or they've been doing it for so long. So as I said, I quality assure across a lot of centres, and I'm a big believer in that if they're dodgy, I won't work with them, full stop. That's. But I'm also a big believer if somebody is either willing to change or they don't know what they don't know, I'll work with them and get them up to standard. There's no point in not doing that. And I've worked with a few centres and the trainers have gone, we've always done it this way and we've never been pulled up by the awarding body. And I'm going, it's very, and I'll pull the awarding body's own documents up that will say what has to be done. But yet these training providers are doing the complete opposite, and the awarding body's never pulled them up on it. Because you've got a chain of, and I'll be honest here and frank, people not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I've not done a lot in construction, but I've dabbled with some of the providers that I've worked with over the years. And it's very similar kind of pool of people that you're pulling from. And the industries are quite similar, where you need a lot of people and it's very transient. And at the end of the day, people have to fill spaces and have to make the money. So they're going to get them in and do what they need to do.
And this is where you're from the same mindset as me, is So I'll get people on the AT that are, say, from construction, or people that want to do their SIA, that want to train in that area.
Mm.
There often are people that are neurodivergent. There are people that often education hasn't worked for them. But I always say to people, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. It just means that didn't work for them.
Yeah.
That they arrive with me, and when someone's taught by somebody properly, and that's my concern, is you can do the AET via e-learning now, which I've got a huge issue with anyway.
Yeah.
I've got an issue with it because if you think about somebody gets their SIA qualification through a rogue-ish company, so they've then got that. They then do the AET online, and now you've got somebody that literally is going to be educating people, not based on much. And yet I know, and the same as it would be with you, when I have people in front of me, when they actually really appreciate what their role is. So I appreciate them for who they are, what they know, what they can do. And then I work with them and then really explain to them just what their role is and how crucial they are to what they're doing, and also the future, because I say, that's how that culture changes. It starts with you, really.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's enough companies, unfortunately, doing it in that same way. And I always say to people, if you actually go to a smaller provider, often that is doing it, but I don't have anywhere to hide. As a provider, I don't have anywhere to hide.
Yeah.
You've got with the awarding body data, I don't have anywhere to hide.
Yeah.
But like you say, I think when you're working with somebody that doesn't know, when I first started out and I had my centre, I have to say the help wasn't there. I knew my stuff. I'm a qualified teacher, but I have to say, when I look back, I think I was stumbling around, not really knowing what I was doing.
Yeah.
But actually, I then got an IQA that was brilliant and said, look, I'll explain to you what you need. And I was like, right, now I know what I need to know.
Yeah.
And he was great. He would work with me with that. I'd gone to the awarding body before and said, oh, God, I've messed up on this. It wasn't because I wasn't teaching right. All of that bit's right. It's the other bit. So I think you're right in that if you know that someone's trying, they can't know what they don't know. And part of that goal is educating them in the paperwork, which isn't actually paperwork now, but
But I think there's the chain of it. It doesn't just stop at the IQA. So our industry is, and I talk frankly about this on LinkedIn, so it's nothing that you haven't heard before from me. But when we start looking at the awarding bodies, there's an expectation that that they're offering out qualifications that I've got to be a bit careful what I say, but that they know about. And unfortunately, a lot of the awarding bodies that offer security qualifications, there's nobody in there that knows what they're talking about. And that sounds harsh, but it's true. You'll ask them. We've had EQAs come out to some of our centres, and I'll go, okay, so what have you done security-wise? Oh, I haven't. I've worked in hospitality for a while, though. There's one awarding body whose EQAs are quality assurance CP qualifications, and the chap's been a door supervisor for 2 years. And you're like, how can you quality assure at awarding body level? So I'm like, okay, so if your training provider's not doing it properly, fine, they might be new, whatever. The IQA is supposed to check that. If the IQA isn't doing it properly for whatever reason, and that could be quite innocent because they might not know what they don't know, you want to look to the awarding organisations and go, train me, help me. What am I supposed to be doing? And they don't know the industry. They can't.
Can I ask you, Debbie? Marianne and I have been having quite a lot of conversations recently around the whole training piece, because one of the things we found over the last couple of years is that there seems to be now a real emphasis on sector-based training.
Okay.
But nobody other than in certain little pockets, especially in the UK, actually ever goes back to, but we need to start by training people who are delivering training on training, right? So, and we've been talking to companies where they go, oh, well, we've got a fairly large number of trainers out there, and they're all disseminating this training to, thousands of people all over the place, and yeah, they will train them on specific things to that industry or whatever, but they don't go back to, but do you know what good training looks like?
Yeah, I absolutely right. And I think we go back to what we were saying earlier about, you know, somebody's got an AET that they've done 100% online. And I've seen those myself. There's one company that will let you teach your husband in your living room and submit the video, and that's your AET done.
Individual wise, I charge slightly more than others do because you get more from me. And Graham knows I've worked really hard at the portal. I've made it so that it's inclusive, the way I teach. But what concerns me is organisations will only pay for people to do it by relearning now, because their budgets suddenly have gone from, we would pay for this, so we haven't got the budget for it. And I'm like, well, you did once upon a time. Once upon a time you did have that budget. But what concerns me more than anything is that there seems to be a massive pushback on having those qualifications. And you know what, I won't be ashamed of saying I've got them. I'm doing a level 5 CIPD qualification now. Do I want to do it? Absolutely. I haven't got time to do it at all. You know, I'm at a point where I don't really want to be doing that, but I'm doing it because I feel like I've got to be able to make people listen. Because interestingly, CIPD wise, so when you look at learning and development jobs that are advertised, you have to have that qualification for training. It's not. And as you say, so if you're doing for the SIA qualification, there's very massive variations in terms of what's deemed as, you know, good. I know that if somebody had been taught by me and they were going to be teaching them that, they've been taught not just the tick box version. I actually go out and go into people's sectors to say, right, okay, if I'm going to be training a lot of people in that sector, so I've said I want to go out and watch an SIA, but I also want to sit it maybe. So that I can understand. I go out with a fire service. I've actually gone out to see what does training actually look like for your trainers. But equally, I also then won't buy pushback on, but you don't get it. I'll go, fine, you might say that I don't get it, but doing it the way you've always been doing it actually isn't necessarily the right way. So maybe you need someone like me to come in from outside with the education head on to say, but every time you just fudge this or you blur it, what does that actually mean?
Debbie, it's part of the problem here, and this is what we found in the narrative, is that people go, well, but the customers are happy, or we get really good feedback. But the reason that they get really good feedback is because actually that's a sale. You know, it's basically if you go and give someone a postcard and go, could you tick here if you think this has been great? In the moment, they probably will go, yeah, that's great. But is it actually good feedback, or is it just sales-based path?
It does depend on the centre. Some of the centres, you know, I sit here and I get very frustrated about standards in the industry, but I have to say there are some excellent centres out there. And you
well
know,
done, by the way, if that's you.
Absolutely, yeah. Of course, they all have me as their IQA, so you know. No, they disclaimer, they don't all have me as their IQA. There are some outstanding centres out there, and the feedback is great. It's been a great course. They've had good resources. They've been taken out to it. For some providers and for some clients, the end goal isn't good training. The end goal is get these people their SIA license, right? And let's do it so they're not out of the workplace too long, and it's done as quickly as we can, because we don't want any failures, because we need them licensed. And it's not just SIA stuff, it's also spectator safety. I see a lot of issues with spectator safety, because they need to be working towards a qualification to be able to go out and work on an event site. So the idea is, let's get them through, let's get them working towards. That's a massive loophole that really gets to me. And that's the end goal. So when you get the feedback saying this is a really great course, it's not necessarily because that course has been great teaching and they've had loads of resources and they've been hands-on, they've been doing the stuff. It's a great course because it took 4 hours and got them out and got their license. You know, so what is great? And that's the issue that I see a lot. And I don't doubt that it's it's probably the same in construction.
I think the issue you've got, I always say you've got training companies and people education companies, you know. Like I said, I'm not the cheapest by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't just I will tick the boxes, but also I will teach them about what it is to do that job. So I had someone this morning, they are doing coaching course, so they're developing one.
Yeah.
So I'm helping them write all of that, all the boring side that nobody likes doing that I love. Anyway, I said, what level do you want to pick at? So there's level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then we were looking at it as, what are the requirements to get that qualification? She was like, oh, I don't know. So I was able to then go through, what does it actually mean? So I said, if you go to level 5, 6, 7, there's a song now, I think, you're
in the room.
If you're going to go for level 5, 6, 7, you're going to have to assess them. It's all going to have to be done formally. And in that very moment, and when I'd sat with her, worked with her, she had what the knowledge was. I developed it all into 12 different lesson plans, a scheme of work. And she went, wow, is that all? Wow. And I was like, yes, this is how I say done properly, but I said it's wonderful to see somebody that's gone from an accidental trainer to somebody that actually then sees that moment, to see that actually this is how it should be. But I'd had a conversation to say, what level do you want it to be? If you want it to be level 5, 6, or 7, there's going to be lots of requirements after that. But once you've got assessments that need to be submitted, who's going to quality assure them? It's not a problem, but you just need to be thinking ahead that when you charge, that obviously if you're going to have to get somebody in to quality assure, whether it's me or whoever it is, but also, is that then going to be a barrier for people that are coming into doing it? How are you going to assess it? Because I think a lot of people are scared of education because it didn't work for them once upon a time. So I said, if you want it to be level 4, it's your choice because it's her program she's writing. And she said, but I want them to be good quality coaches. And I said, you just have to make this decision now that you can make it be a level 4, but you will put the quality within it. I wrote a program because I knew that there was many people that wouldn't want to do the 4 because if they're trainers, do they want to do lots of essays? Probably not. Have they got the money? Probably not. Can they be bothered with all of the stuff you don't need? Because you know as well as I do in level 4 that if you're a trainer, there's a whole lot of stuff. So I did something that was, doable for that. But I know that the level 3 stuff that I teach, it's got every bit of quality that I would want someone to have over and above, so that they can do their role. I think the problem you've got is when you've got training companies that are just in it for the money, you're going to get different. The quality is generally going to be.
I think we have to look at why the problem exists in the first place. Does this problem exist, Debbie, because we've just got a lot more of stuff now. We've probably got more events than we've ever had. We've probably got more venues than we've ever had. Is this why the demand is more, and therefore we've just got to get people through the system quicker? And
pretty much. So obviously the regulations and everything changed all those years ago. We certainly need a lot more staff for events now, and events have got bigger. We've now got greenfield sites that are holding, tens if not hundreds of thousands of people. And then on those sites, you take something like Glastonbury Festival, any of the big festivals in summer, and I've worked many of them over the years. And if you look at, it's not just security in the arenas, you've got security on the campsites, you've got security in the perimeters, you've got hundreds of thousands of people, and they all need looking after. So to get that amount of people at one go on one site, and bearing in mind a lot of these events are all going on simultaneously all over the country, your regular venues and everything else as well. I think there's something around somewhere between 450 and 500,000 license holders at the moment in the country. So you're looking at around 500,000, give or take, because there's the SIA website will give you the exact stats, but there's a lot of license holders. It's a very transient industry, so people need to come in and out of that industry quickly. And so, there's a supply and demand issue, I suppose. It's a case of getting people in as quickly and as cheaply as possible. And I think...
Is that not the problem?
Yeah.
Is that not the problem? Because it's the same with the care sector. In a similar kind of way.
It's similar.
if you've like, I don't know in other sectors, well, I know this not to be, if you set up a business, you wouldn't expect to be turning over huge profits straight away. And unfortunately, same in the care sector, it's deemed that, oh, it's easy money to be made. And I said, but hang on a minute, it's not easy. Like, it shouldn't be easy if you've got a business. And actually, if people are paying good money for things and tickets for things aren't, but that price needs to be passed on. And there's somebody I've been working with that's got lots of ideas again that said, can you come in on this to put your side there, to actually give people a career path in the industry, so that it's something to be proud of doing, as opposed to just bunging somebody in to do a role. That if you train people properly to do it, then they will have pride in doing what they're doing, as opposed to just go and be a carer, just go and be a door person.
I can see it kind of from both sides, because I can understand, especially, I mean, it's, you know, I've got an interest in music. You take music festivals, etc., they've become really, really, really expensive. Because they've become really, really expensive to put on, and and there's more of them, so, and they're all competing.
They are.
So you know, when you then have to charge everybody, like, you know, more money than it would cost for you to take the family abroad for 2 weeks to go to a festival for 3 days. It's hard.
But it would be interesting then to look then at how much then the people that are at that lower level, and I'm not saying I see them like that, but at that pay rise level, if you don't have those people doing their bit right, none of the other bit can happen anyway. And if we don't start giving those people and paying them and training them correctly, they're not going to be doing their job right.
That's why really that the source of the source came about as a community idea, was because we were having these conversations and we were banging our heads up against a brick wall, because we were having conversations with training managers, and they were going, yeah, I've got loads of trainers and I've never done a training qualification, and none of them have done training qualifications. We don't really care about training qualification. As long as the feedback's good, it's all okay. And until something goes wrong, they won't re-look at it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if it's not broken, we won't fix it. And we just felt, okay, so we're approaching the conversation from the wrong direction. Whereas actually, if we could say to people, what your people do need is they do need continual CPD on training, right? Which helps to bring them up a level. But we kind of understand that, you know, taking them out of work for 3 or 4 days, that's hard. You know, you probably don't want to do that. But that's why it was then created, so that there's somewhere to take those people, and then along the journey, when they see the need, if it then becomes for some of those people, actually, I want to do this right, I do want to do a qualification in that, you know, then they can do the qualification. But I think it has to come from the education around education. I think unless you get people into a system, they're not going to buy into a system.
Equally, part of the reason as well I wanted to start it was because, number one, I have people saying to me, come on, they're 80, they've been trainers for years, and they were saying, I never get any support in my workplace. No, you're not going to, are you? Because if the person that's managing you is a manager, a training manager, as in managing a training team, but not a trainer, they're not going to know how to. So they're saying, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm thinking, God, I can do my best in 2 days, but there's only so much I can do. So there was number one was that, and number two was independent trainers that don't really know what they're doing, and they don't really know who to go to. And like you say, that they're the ones that actually, when you get them, you kind of don't mind them, because they're going, oh, help me, sort of thing. So for me, it was to say, well, if I had independent trainers that I know that are out there, they can't necessarily afford, they don't have that money to employ this, that, and every other person. They can't afford a consultancy, but they want to be able to go and ask those questions that I wish I'd had somebody to ask, because in your own industry, most people don't want to help you.
I think in our industry, the security side of things rather than education training, there's almost it's almost embarrassing to ask, and not because it comes across as I don't know what I'm doing, so I've got to ask somebody. It's not. I mean, and I'm not speaking for everybody here. It's just a pattern that I see, and there are obviously some excellent people out there, but a lot of people will see it as not. I'm developing myself. They'll see it as I don't know what I'm doing, and I've got to confess that I don't know what I'm doing. And it's not that at all. It's, I get people in my LinkedIn inbox a lot asking questions, and I love that, because if I can help somebody or give them some resources, or even I've had some people come to me and say, I've found myself in this pattern of death by PowerPoint, and like, what can I do instead? And I give them loads of ideas of getting people up and doing stuff. We're teaching something.
We need to get you in the community.
And go for it. But it's
that's the exact reason why. It was because people want somewhere to go to be able to ask for advice, but the awarding bodies can't, either can't or won't or don't know how to. So I thought, well, surely if I have a space where people can feel safe, that they can go and ask those questions, like you say, you can feel like you're sounding that you're ignorant, although you're not. Because actually, I think the most dangerous thing is not admitting you don't know anything, but the best thing you can ever do is say, I'm having a meeting later to ask some questions, and I've been honest about that. Not because I've done anything wrong; it's because things out of my control. But to say, actually, I'm not 100% sure how I do this. Can you explain it?
Yeah.
And so I got to the point, I was constantly having people ringing me, Marianne, I know you know the answer to this. And I was like, look, I'm a silent partner in lots of people's businesses without getting paid. Probably what you feel like. And I thought, well, at least if it's into the community, it's a lot cheaper for them to be part of that, and they can learn and grow than people not knowing and not having it. I see it in Facebook groups for first aid. I mean, honestly, some of the things I hear, but equally, people then sound judgmental, and I go, do you want to just step back a minute? Like, the person's asking.
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
Some of the things do worry me slightly, but I have had conversations with people, and when I get to the point I have had those conversations, they've then gone, actually, I don't know if I should be doing this. Again, they don't know what they don't know. They might not know that there's a course. They might not know. Do you know what I mean? Or they may have done their AET online, and I'm like, oh God, you've got the bit of paper.
The interesting thing in our industry as well is that we're actually, I say we as in trainers are, because obviously I'm still, I don't train much, but I'm still technically trained. I'm still technically operational. So we are actually mandated to have CPD. So every year we are supposed to send into the awarding body any updated physical intervention certificates if we're teaching physical intervention, because that's an annual license. And also our updated CV and our updated CPD log. So every year we have to do that without question. The awarding bodies will normally email the centres and say so-and-so hasn't done it. Quite often it's Debbie Barber, your IQA hasn't submitted a CPD log. So and you submit your CPD log, and never have I known a CPD log to be checked.
Again, checking the checkers.
Who's checking the checkers? And this is a very key point. Certainly, as I said, my industry has been security, so I can't talk about other industries really because I don't know them. But certainly in ours, we're uploading those CPD logs, and as long as the record is there and there's a tick box, nobody's checking that anybody's ever, that anyone's ever done that CPD. My CPD log is, and I'm not by any means saying I'm perfect here because I'm absolutely not. My CPD log, I put the links in so that people can see what I've read and what I've done and all that sort of stuff. But I've had CPD logs come to me for a quick whiz through. That's it'll be something like for the past 6 months they'll have things like I've taught a door supervisor course, I've taught a first aid course. That's not CPD. CPD is your professional development, right? If you're doing the same stuff day after day after day, how is that developing you? Unless you're then going off and saying, I'm going to have a look at this, or I've asked Marianne how I can better improve this, and we've had some ideas. That is CPD, and take that back into your session. CPD is not, I have taught the same shit I taught yesterday, right?
Well, here's the thing, right? Okay, I want to ask both of you, what does CPD mean? Marianne?
I feel like you're catching me out now. Continual professional development. But...
Yeah, Debbie?
Yeah, I'd say the same, continual professional development.
Yeah, but out there mainly it stands for consistently postponing development. That's what it actually stands for most of the time.
But isn't that precise reason? The reason, so I saw that consistently for probably 7, 8 years, I don't know, that people were coming to me saying, I've done my AET now, what can I do next? Or people clearly didn't know how to do things. And I was like, there isn't actually a refresher. Most other things you have a refresher, but there isn't actually one for that.
No.
And so I for 7 years sat on the idea, and then I thought, right, just do something about this. And so I did. I wrote a program. I got it accredited with Highfield. I had 9 modules, and the purpose of it was to offer people the whole lot they wanted, or that they could actually just do the module that they needed in order to learn and improve. So let's just say it was quality assurance. If you've done your AET, you probably don't really know that much about what it is. So that module is exactly like you said. Let's just say someone's like just started out their own centre, or I have people that start their own academy and they're like, I've got no idea what I'm doing. And I'm like, well, actually, this is what you need. And so that I've done it so that it's like a masterclass, like workshop. So actually,
this is what people need, isn't it?
And they work on things. But I don't know anybody else. There isn't anybody else that's done that, because they either want to offer very niche, expensive courses, or. But the whole reason I did that was for that CPD, for the exact reason you said, is that if someone doesn't know, like if they've got their own centre, or they've got their own academy, I'm asking those questions as a consultant, but most people probably can't afford that. I'm saying to them, like I said to the woman this morning, so how are you going to quality assure? How are you going to do this? How are you going to get feedback? All of these things, but she's already got a business that's well established, and she's got people waiting, so she knows she's got a lot of money that will come in. Most people don't have that.
No, that's it. So but I think there's very inexpensive ways of keeping, certainly in our industry, of keeping your CPD topped up. So there's things like you've got your online stuff. There's a massive amount of stuff at the moment around the Martin's Law stuff, although there's no specific guidance. We know that. Keeping updated with it, with the progress of it, looking at other trainers delivering stuff. Get online and watch some YouTube videos. There's really cheap, free resources out there. Come and chat to you or me. Have an hour with us chatting about stuff that we can.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing with any learning, right? Yeah. It's interesting because I just came off a conversation with a guy that really knows his neuroscience this morning, which is always fascinating. Yeah, juicy. Absolutely. Yeah. And we were talking a lot about curiosity. One of the problems is that a lot of people doing CPD aren't learning anything. They're not learning anything because they're not coming at it from a point of curiosity. They're coming at it from a point of, I've got to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to tick that box. They want to just tick a box. The organisation are giving them a way of just ticking that box. There's no actual learning going on. When we want to learn something because we want to know, because we're curious, because, or I don't want to be in that situation and that happened to me, so I want to understand, how I would deal with that situation, then we will learn it. Because we've got a curiosity around the topic that means that we're invested in it.
Yeah.
If people got into it in the beginning, when people get into it, they generally have a desire to. Some people just get pushed into it, but they probably don't last that long anyway.
Yeah.
I asked a question the other day on LinkedIn, and I said, "Who's observing the trainers?" So, you've done your. Did you do the level 5 route? I can't remember if you did because I did PGCE.
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did my cert ed, and then I did the quality assurance stuff after that.
So I was saying to the lady this morning, you've got to consider then these coaches, if you're going to teach them to that level, what does that then mean in terms of them staying up to date? And I said, you've just got to think long and hard. So I said, when I train people at level 5, so level 4, it's 50 hours. They've got to submit a log of how many hours they've done. Level 5, they've got to do 150 hours, I think it is. And they've got to have observations that have to be done by somebody that's qualified, blah, 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 blah. And I said, so when I was teaching, every year when I was teaching, I had 2 senior leadership team observations and 1 peer observation. I said, I don't see this happen, generally speaking, in the training world. And so I'd not surprisingly, whenever I put a post out like that, it's tumbleweed because everyone's doing this. It's like, I mean, you could say the algorithm doesn't show it, but I don't buy that at all. Not necessarily. So I said, so one lady came back to me and said, well, I'm a trainer, I do safeguarding training, and my people that I'm training would tell me if I wasn't very good. And I'm like,
no, they won't.
She said they would tell me, they would put me in my place. So anyway, we carried on, and I thought, well, I've got to be really discreet here. So I said, I absolutely get where you're coming from. I said, but and it's great we're staying up to date with our knowledge. I said, but in terms of how we're training and whether it's doing what it needs to, blah 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 blah. And you know, if, as I said, as a teacher, I had no choice. That's what you had to go through.
Yeah.
She came back with something else, and I thought, you've literally dodged it. Why are you dodging it? Why are you?
Because it comes back round to that thing. This isn't training. It's not training. It's sales.
If people had to, if it was a requirement as a teacher, you cannot refuse to have that observation. You can't refuse to. So I'm not understanding. Well, I sort of do. What is the fear behind it? I hate. You know what it? I hate having my. I hate when it comes to the end of the year and I get the thing through the awarding body. I get this dread. But you know, when I stopped dreading it was when I did my IQA qualification. And bearing in mind I'm neurodivergent, so I don't like all of that. When I understood why I was being asked it, and it then stopped being a mystery, even though I knew why. It then meant I was like, actually, none of this needs to be difficult. It just means you're doing your job and you're proving you're doing it well. I've got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
I think the problem is, though, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Debbie, but isn't the problem that people don't want to be seen as the learner in the room? They want to be seen as the expert in the room. And as soon as you say to anybody, but you have to continually go back to school, they're like, yeah, but I know it all now. I know enough. I know enough to make this work. Why should I learn anything else?
Oh, my absolute favourite. I've got a high pass rate, so I must be doing it right.
I say there's very few people who are amazing trainers and amazing experts.
Yeah,
I think there's very few that actually come here. I think there's some brilliant experts, and I think there's some brilliant people that have got training skills. But we were saying that I think, and this was when this person came back and said, with all due respect, have you done this and that? And I thought, well, you don't actually know. You've come at it from thinking I don't know stuff. Yeah. But the issue you've got is that a lot of people are door supervisors that are training. They're not trainers that are expert.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
And don't you have to look every time at how are people coming into a trade? Probably the best way I can explain this is like my son's at university at the moment doing theoretical physics, right? Okay. He thinks that his lecturing team, who are all researchers at a high level and doing, writing books and whatever, he thinks they're amazing, right? Because he can see that they're proving that they're in that world, right? And that they've done their stuff, right? And he intellectualizes everything because it's that kind of degree, right? Yeah. When I was in assistive technology, and you'll get this within the security sector, I used to find people who were coming into the sector, and they weren't coming into the sector because they were interested in helping people with assistive technology, or they understood learning and how people learn or whatever. And you will get people that go into security not because they want to really kind of help in terms of that security aspect. It's because my mate Keith said to me, there might be a bit of work down the road standing on the door, and it might be quite good for me. So I thought, why not? Yeah. And if you start with that, right, if you're starting with that, you're starting from a point where that person doesn't have the right motivation for necessarily being the right person to be there. Yeah. Right.
You're breeding the wrong culture, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I know if I had Tyler the other day, so I was teaching him, and I was having to get him to not just think like a Tyler now. Yeah. I'm like, you are a Tyler, but I need you to shift your perspective, and I need you to see that if you want the standards to be this way or that way or whatever, then you need to stop thinking just like a Tyler. You need Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to think like a trainer. Yeah, you've got to think like an educator. And yet we certainly see it a lot. The amount of trainers that have said to me, well, how hard is it to stand in front of a PowerPoint and click it? PowerPoint's great. PowerPoint is great as a backdrop. It's like being on a stage and you've got the scenery behind you. It sets the scene. It lets somebody have a quick eyes away look at. You are the show, right? And fortunate, I suppose. My first degree was in performing arts, so I'm a little bit extra when it comes to my teaching. But you are the show, and unfortunately, you're absolutely right. They're coming into the industry and they're going, and I'm going to put my hands up here and say one of the reasons I went into training, initially not quality assurance, but training side of it, was because I wanted to say in security, but my children at the time were at the age where I was away every summer doing events and things, and I wasn't seeing my kids, and I was a single parent, and I was like, this isn't fair. I need to do something in security that's a bit more 9 to 5, and training was the thing.
Lots of people get into it.
I fell in love with it. So for me, I loved educating, and I did fall in love with it. But for a lot of people, I don't want to work on a door till 4 o'clock in the morning anymore. What else can I do with the knowledge that I already have? Which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But they're cool with standing in front of a PowerPoint and clicking through it. And going back to our point that we said at the start here, where is that problem? Companies are cool with that too, because the aim isn't the education. The aim is the license. So it's almost a win-win. That's an issue.
What needs to happen is, and I see this, is like I said, if you go down the learning and development route, it's an absolute badge to be worked to be proud of, to have your CIPD qualification. If I tell people I've got a teaching qualification that was also a training one, people go, and do you think know it all, do you? And I go, well, I don't think I actually said that I know it all.
No.
But I spent a year doing that, and I've been teaching for 20 years. What I would love to see is a shift towards people actually being proud of that. And then we had a meeting the other week, and I said that I've got this program, and they said, yeah, but people don't need that, do they? And I said, it's not really about need, it's actually about content.
Let's wrap up today. Thank you, Debbie. It's been a great conversation. Basically, people don't actually have a choice because things are heading that way. We've got the Fair Work Agency coming in the UK. They are going to have a look at competence when it comes to training. If the competence isn't there, then the training is not fit for purpose. That's one. Secondly, if we don't go down that route, if we don't go down the passion route, you know what's going to happen? We're going to go down the American route. And the American route will be, you do need to do this. You do need to have a qualification. You do need to do it right, because otherwise people will sue you. It will be one or the other. It's going to be do it right, but do it right for the reasons of passion and the fact that you're really involved in it, or do it right because you're going to get sued. Sooner or later, it's going to come round to people doing it right. So that's the good news.
That's probably the way it's going to have to go before there's major change. And there are a lot of good providers out there, wonderful providers out there. Unfortunately, as you guys know, good training costs money, and employers and clients don't necessarily want to pay good money. So if they can get something else for cheaper and it still produces the end result, unfortunately, that's the pattern we're seeing. So, but there are providers, lots of them.
People that buy the training go for quality, not cheapness.
Yes.
There you go.
Stay and do their job better.
Don't buy the cheap mini eggs.
No. And on that note, may you all be a lot more heavy with Easter egg consumption by the time that you've watched this.
Your name of your new...
Oh, yes. So, Insignia Awards started, well, it launched, it was supposed to be on the back burner for a few years, but actually launched last week, which it's completely random. The website isn't even built properly yet, and we had a little bit of an incident, and I had to launch it on the spot. So Insignia Awards is currently going through Ofcol approval, but currently is operating as an accrediting body. And we've had so many centres sign up, it's been absolutely insane. So at the moment, just to go kind of back to what you were saying about CPD versus qualifications, at the moment we're kind of a CPD organisation, but we are quite the way through an Ofcol process. So fingers crossed, we will be an awarding organisation very soon.
But if somebody came to me and had got a close protection course that they want to be CPD accredited, they do it for you. So if I help them with it, because they don't know how to write it, if I did that bit, then they could do it through you.
Yeah, if they just want it as a CPD thing, then and they want somebody to accredit that, they can do that right now. So yeah,
There you go.
happy
Oh,
days.
fantastic.
First, another client. There you go.
There we go. There we go. Yeah. Thank you ever so much for watching, everybody. We will be back soon with another one of these. But until then, bye for now.